Hey, my angels, you came back, and I'm so glad to see you. Thank you. Hopefully, this one will be a little smoother than the last one. So, we're going to pick up where we left off before and talk about FDR. Let's introduce this guy to the scene. So, FDR is one of our most beloved presidents, right up there with Teddy Roosevelt. And yes, they are related. FDR stands for Franklin Delano Roosevelt, and he is a cousin of Teddy Roosevelt's. He admires Teddy, he looks up to him, he wants to be like him, and he tries to track his political career so that he, like Teddy, can be president. And in fact, he even marries his cousin, Eleanor Roosevelt. She was a Roosevelt before she married Franklin, because she was more closely related to Teddy than he was, and he wanted access. Now, he is a Democrat because the rest of the Roosevelt clan are all Republicans, as Teddy was until he became a progressive. But he has a lot of the same belief systems that Teddy has. He believes in a fair deal for people. He believes in union membership. He would be considered today a democratic socialist by our modern standards. He, like a Bernie Sanders, wanted a lot of the same things. And a lot of the platform of Bernie Sanders is similar to the platforms and the progression of the New Deal, which is his plan for the people of America, can be seen in some of the ideas that Bernie Sanders presents to America. Now, FDR was elected 4 times. He got America through the Great Depression and was our leader through World War II. So as you can imagine, this gives him a lot of clout with the American people, and he's elected over and over and over again. Now, sadly, he doesn't live through his 4th term. He dies April 1945, before Hitler, a couple weeks before Hitler. So he doesn't actually live to see the end of World War II, which is sad. But he was very, very popular. So I'm going to switch over here because I want to show you some pictures. So FDR tried to mimic Teddy's political career. He was senator of New York. He was assistant secretary of the Navy, just like Teddy was. And but while he was on a trip in the Pacific for the United States, he contracted polio, and it left him unable to walk. So what he does, well, first he can't believe, like, this is it. He's very depressed. This is the end of his political career, and so he has a car made, specially adapted so that he can drive it without needing his legs. And he drives across America by himself. And he tries to heal himself mentally from this, this disappointment, this loss. And what he finds as he travels across America is that there are a lot of stories out there, and there are a lot of people in need and a lot of people who need help. And instead of, giving up on politics, he realizes that he is needed and this perspective is needed, and he comes back with a renewed sense of purpose and tries to figure out a way around his disability. So, I mean, even today, it's hard to imagine that the American public would be forgiving enough, or maybe that's not the right word. What word do I want to say? But would have a hard time electing a differently abled president. The American public is very harsh with their demands, I guess. We haven't even had a woman president yet. So it's something that it'd be great to see, but would it happen? I don't know. But FDR knows that he's not going to get elected if people know about his polio and his disability. So he has these leg braces created, and he teaches himself how to walk. He strengthens his upper body. You can see those leg braces here under his pants. When you see him giving speeches, he's holding himself up, or you'll see his son standing beside him because they're helping hold him up. And people honestly didn't know that he had any issue at all. They didn't know. Now, Churchill knew, and especially during the war, Churchill tried to keep a close eye on him and make sure that he wasn't going to fall over dead, because Churchill needed him and needed America in the war to defeat the Nazis. So he actually embedded spies in the White House that were movie actors to go and stay with Roosevelt, and he got a daily report on Roosevelt's health. But FDR is the one who has really changed the way America functions. And through his what we call the New Deal program, his program of assistance that was set up for farmers and people and businesses and the banks, are going to totally revolutionize American life. Okay, so there is FDR and his wife Eleanor and one of his sons, and you can see that they are helping him walk, but it doesn't really, it just looks like they're a close family, so people didn't take any thing from that. Oh, look, there's everything I just said already. That's just like I do in class all the time. He is a wealthy man. He went to Harvard and Columbia. He lived in upstate New York. I've been to his house up there in Hyde Park. His mom, super controlling. Like, he's a mama's boy. So she's so controlling that when he marries Eleanor and they buy what's called a brownstone, it's sort of like a townhouse, but it's a really ritzy townhouse. His mom bought the brownstone next door and had a door installed so that she could walk from her house to his house without going outside. Imagine being that wife, because man, no fun. Anyway, mama's involved. Okay, so FDR is handily elected because nobody has any belief in Hoover. And FDR is like, I've got plans, I've got ideas, we're going to fix this stuff. And then in his inauguration, that famous line, the only thing we have to fear is fear itself, right? We've got to take the bull by the horns and change the direction of this country. So when the stock market crashed, people became terrified, and that makes sense, right? So people ran to the banks to pull their money out. This is called a run on the banks. And what happened is the banks don't have liquid assets on hand. They don't keep all that cash. You deposit your money, and then they take your money and they invest it, right? So if everybody goes to the bank to get their money, it's not necessarily going to be there. So what happens is people go to the bank to get their money, and the banks are shut down. The banks don't have anything. The banks don't have any insurance. They lost everything in the stock market. So people who, you know, had saved their whole life for retirement have nothing. Like, it's gone, and there's no way to get it back. So people don't believe in the banks. They're not using the banks. So that's money that people aren't investing. So FDR has a bank holiday. He shuts down the nation's banks for 4 days. Now, people think that the government is going through the banks and going through the paperwork and changing things and, you know, making sure they're on the up and up, but really nothing happens. They just shut down the banks for 4 days, and that's enough to give people the confidence that the banks are now working again. So they start using them to some extent. I know my grandmother, she grew up in the Great Depression, my grandma Lillian, and she was 17, 18 when the crash happened, and she was working. She'd left school in 6th grade. She was working, and she never kept money in a bank. You know, we were kids and we'd like play in her bedroom and you'd find a pill bottle with 20s wadded up in it because she just never trusted the banks to hold her money anymore. And, you know, to me now as an adult, that made sense. She also, every time we would go to, you know, like a all-you-can-eat restaurant or something, she'd stuff food in her purse because she's just like, well, I don't know if there's going to be food tomorrow, you know. And going to the grocery stores in the modern day and seeing there's no food on the shelves, you know, I kind of get where she was coming from because it is a little scary. And it's very scary. You know, you expect something to be there. It's there your whole life, and then all of a sudden it's not there, and you're not prepared. What do you do? So the bank holiday is going to restore people's faith in banks. They're going to use the banks. And then he's going to create an insurance system so that your money is backed up, right? So even today, you go to the bank, you're going to see a sign on the door, a little gold label, and it says FDIC insured up to $250,000. That means as long as you've put your money in this bank, it's going to be there for you up to $250,000. Your money is there, so there won't be a run on the banks. Excuse me. And FDR creates what are called fireside chats. All right. And this is a way to appeal to people. Remember, people's technology, the limit is the radio, and everyone has like one big radio and people sit around it to listen to entertainment. Well, FDR kind of revolutionizes communication between the president and the people. He's really the people's first president because he is in their living rooms. He is explaining the problem. He is telling them what's going on and how he's going to fix it and what he's trying. And they're so successful that they continue into the modern age. And every president has done them. Now, Obama switched them over to podcast because previously they were all on AM radio, and who even listens to AM radio anymore, right? So Obama made podcasts. Now, Trump did it for a little while, but he stopped doing it. And so now we see the candidates doing web broadcasts, live streams, and even we had one a couple weeks ago because it's primary season and candidates want you to vote for them. And we had a candidate that he actually called it a fireside chat, and he sat in his house and there's a fireplace and the logs are burning. And, as a historian, it's like really kind of cool to see this. Also kind of scary, but, history's a pattern. You see it coming, you know what's coming. So it's going to be rocky, but we'll get through it. I mean, we always do. All right. Okay, so he builds what's called a brain trust, which means he puts people around him who are experts in all the things that need help. He knows he's not the man to solve all the problems. He hires the people who are, and he's okay with listening to what they say and doing what they recommend. And his kind of strategy was to create, thousands of things and throw all these things at it and see what stuck. Some things worked great. Some things failed. But at least he was trying, and that's the way that people felt. So his brain trust are these experts in every field who are helping him solve the problem. All right, so we're going to see all kinds of legislation created to help mitigate the problems that are caused by the Great Depression. We have three kinds of legislation: relief, reform, and recovery. So relief strategies, like the new coronavirus bill, number 3, that was just passed last night by the Senate, is, immediate help. Stop the bleeding. Put a Band-Aid on it. Give the people money. Give the people food. Give the people jobs. And then reform and recovery are more long-term solutions. Reform is so that it never happens again. Recovery are like long-term solutions that, try to bridge the gap and solve some of these problems. Some of those things are still in play today, like the Agricultural Adjustment Act, Social Security, that's still in play, and some others, and we'll talk more about those. All right, I'm going to go ahead and take a break here because it's been about 13 minutes, and I want to give you a chance to go to the bathroom and get a snack. See you later.